Scorpio. On this day, the 3rd of August, the universe is not asking for your permission. It has already made a quiet, irreversible decision about your path. And that decision is being carried out, whether you're ready or not. You may feel it already, in the way certain people have grown silent, in the subtle tension between you and those you used to feel close to, in the heaviness that lingers in familiar places that once brought comfort but now feel strangely hollow. This isn't a coincidence. And it's not your imagination. What you're experiencing is a deliberate unraveling, one that is not meant to break you, but to free you. The people, environments, and habits that have kept you tethered to an old version of yourself are being quietly removed. Not out of cruelty, but out of divine precision. You're not being punished for your growth. You're being protected from what can no longer grow with you. There is a kind of sacred intelligence behind all of this, a force that sees beyond what you're willing to admit. It recognizes the patterns that drain you, the conversations that make you shrink, the dynamics where you must abandon parts of yourself just to maintain peace. And it's done waiting for you to catch up. The process is already in motion. Bonds that once felt unshakable are fading. Invitations are slowing down. And your instinct to explain yourself is getting tired. You're being invited to stand still and let it happen. No fixing. Not chasing. No begging for clarity where you've already received the answer, in silence. It may look like rejection, but it's actually release. It may feel like abandonment, but it's an initiation into a higher frequency of love, truth, and self-respect. The universe isn't punishing you by removing what you once clung to. It's showing you who cannot come with you where you're going. This is the part that hurts before it heals. You may find yourself mourning the version of you who tolerated too much, who apologized for needing space, who said yes when everything in your body wanted to say no. And that mourning is necessary. Let it happen. Let yourself feel it without trying to make it look noble. Let yourself grieve not just the relationships, but the parts of yourself that you compromised to maintain them. There is no reward in staying connected to what drains you. There is no growth in being available to those who only remember your worth when it's convenient. And Scorpio, if there's one thing you've always known deep down, it's that your soul doesn't do well in cages. Not emotional ones. Not spiritual ones. Not relational ones. That tension you've been carrying, it's not confusion, it's clarity that you've been avoiding. So today, take your hands off the things you've tried too long to hold together. Let what needs to leave leave. Trust the distance. Trust the silence. Trust the things that don't text back. You're not losing anything meant for your highest good. You're shedding illusions. You're outgrowing roles that required your silence. And in their place, something truer will rise. Not all at once, but steadily. A new circle. A deeper peace. A relationship with yourself that no longer feels like negotiation. The universe is not just cutting ties. It's writing a new chapter with your name on it. One where you don't have to earn your place by shrinking. One where your depth is seen, not misunderstood. One where your love doesn't have to be survival. Just truth. Just freedom. Just you. This isn't punishment, it's liberation. And I know that word feels too clean for what you're going through. Because the truth is, letting go rarely feels like freedom in the moment. It feels like failure. Like loss. Like standing in a room that used to be full of voices, and now echoes with nothing but your own breathing. But Scorpio, the silence is sacred. It's not emptiness, it's space being cleared for the truth of who you are, to expand. You weren't made to live small. You weren't made to twist yourself into versions that fit better into someone else's comfort zone. And yet, for too long, you've made yourself digestible, toning down your intensity, dimming your light, holding your tongue, accepting less than you deserve. all in the name of keeping peace. That was never really peace at all. The universe has seen this. And it's stepping in now, not because it wants to hurt you, but because it refuses to let you keep bleeding slowly in situations that only survive when you're sacrificing your power. It knows what you've forgotten, that your light was never meant to be negotiated, that your truth is not too much, that your love is not too intense, that your presence is not too heavy. The relationships that ask you to be less will fall away, not because you didn't try hard enough, but because your soul has outgrown the container. And every time you try to keep something that shrinks you, you block the very expansion you've been praying for. This cutting process, painful as it may feel, is actually an answer to your deepest cry to be seen, to be loved in your wholeness, to live without apology. So don't mistake the unraveling for abandonment. Don't confuse the discomfort of release with the lie that you're unlovable. The truth is, you're finally being returned to yourself. And as these connections dissolve, you'll begin to notice a different kind of presence entering your life, one that doesn't ask for your silence, one that meets your depth without flinching, one that sees your intensity, not as something to manage, but as something to honor. Scorpio, this is not the end. It's the unbinding. The sacred undoing of everything that kept you smaller than your soul was meant to be. Let the unraveling happen. Let the truth make room. Let yourself shine. Not in spite of who you are, but because of it. And yes, there will be moments when it hurts in ways you can't quite explain. Moments when the loneliness creeps in like a fog. Not because you're truly alone, but because you're standing in the in-between, no longer who you were, not yet anchored in who you're becoming. You may wake up with a heavy chest, questioning whether you made a mistake by letting go, wondering if maybe you asked for too much, felt too deeply, or walked away too soon. There may be days when you miss even the people who hurt you, not because you want the pain back, but because they were familiar. And familiarity can feel safer than freedom when you're healing. You may feel grief for the life you outgrew, sadness for the version of you who tolerated too much, even anger at yourself for not seeing it sooner. Let all of it move through you. These feelings are not setbacks. They're evidence that you are no longer numb. You're not stuck, you're softening. You're shedding the armor you wore for so long just to survive. This is what healing actually looks like. Scorpio, it's not a straight line. Not a clean break. Not a quick revelation. It's raw and honest, and often messy. It asks you to sit with the parts of yourself you once buried, to cradle the pain instead of pushing it away, to give your sorrow a voice rather than forcing a smile. And somewhere in the middle of that quiet ache, you begin to reclaim something. You forgot your right to feel deeply without shame. Your right to be seen even in your brokenness. Your right to start again, not as someone who needs fixing, but as someone who is finally telling the truth. So when the grief rises, let it. When the doubt whispers, listen but don't follow. You are not broken for feeling lost in this transition. You are healing. You are remembering. You are returning home to yourself. And in time, the sadness will soften into wisdom. The anger will melt into clarity. And what felt like an ending will quietly begin to look like a threshold. One step at a time. Scorpio, you are becoming someone you've never had to apologize for. And that is the real miracle. There's something sacred that begins to happen once you stop resisting the quiet. When the noise fades, the texts that never come, the calls that don't arrive, the validation that no longer fills the void, you're left with nothing but yourself. And while that might feel like loneliness at first, what it's actually offering is something far more powerful: solitude. Not isolation, not exile, but spacious, sovereign solitude. The kind where you begin to hear your own voice again, without all the interference. It's in the stillness that you learn to sit with yourself not as a stranger, but as a companion. You start to recognize your own rhythms, Your own needs. Your own longings, not filtered through someone else's expectations. Not distorted by the fear of being too much or not enough. You become your own safe place. Your own mirror. Your own witness. And in doing so, you stop chasing connection for survival. You begin to choose it for resonance. That's when everything changes. Because, as you settle deeper into the truth of who you are without performance, without shrinking, you begin to attract differently. The people who once saw your light as a threat will start to fade. Their distance won't feel like rejection anymore. It will feel like relief. You'll look back and realize how long you kept yourself small, just to avoid making others uncomfortable. How many times you dimmed your joy, so someone else wouldn't feel insecure. How often you tolerated disconnection, just to keep the illusion of closeness. But no more. Now, your presence will act as a filter. Only those who can hold your light without fear. Who can meet your depth without deflecting. Who can celebrate your truth without comparison. Only they will remain. Not because you demanded it, but because your energy will no longer sustain anything less. Scorpio. The cutting away was never meant to leave you empty. It was meant to create space for better, for deeper, for truer. You're not losing connection. You're being refined in who and what you connect with. You're not being left behind. You're being positioned ahead. The people who are meant for this next chapter will find you without you needing to explain your worth. They'll arrive not to fix you, but to walk beside you. They'll come not because they need your light to survive, but because they want to grow in it. You'll start to see what real connection feels like, not convenience, not obligation, but mutual elevation. This is the reward of letting go. Not just peace, but alignment. Not just quiet, but freedom. And the longer you stay in this alignment, the clearer it becomes. You were never too much. You were just surrounded by those who weren't ready. But now you are. And the right ones are coming. And once the noise is gone, once the people who projected their fears onto you have been cleared, once the environments that dimmed your spirit no longer claim your energy, you begin to hear something else. A voice that's been with you all along, waiting underneath the chaos. It's quiet at first, almost unfamiliar, because you've spent so long filtering your instincts through the lens of other people's expectations. But day by day, that voice grows steadier. It tells you that you were never broken, that your sensitivity is strength, that your insight isn't something to suppress, but to lead with. And from that place, your confidence begins to rise. Not the kind that needs to be proved, not the kind that seeks applause, but the kind that's rooted in deep knowing. You don't need anyone to validate your worth anymore. You remember it, and you carry it, not like armor, but like gravity. This is what reclaiming your purpose feels like. Not a lightning bolt or a loud epiphany, but a slow and certain return to what has always been yours. You begin to see how the things that once made you feel too much were actually indicators of your calling. The way you feel everything deeply. The way you see patterns before others do. The way you hold space for truth even when it's uncomfortable. These were never flaws, Scorpio. These were instructions. And now that you're no longer expending energy, trying to explain or defend them, you finally have the capacity to channel them into your work, into your art, into your voice, into the spaces where your leadership was always meant to live. You look around and realize you're not just healing. You're rising. Because this isn't just cleansing. It's resurrection. You're not going back to who you were before the wounds. You're becoming someone stronger because of them. You're piecing yourself back together, with more intention, more clarity, and more compassion. This version of you doesn't carry the weight of needing to be understood. You are too busy becoming. And in that becoming, your creativity begins to wake up. The spark you thought you lost returns with even more fire. The dreams you put on the shelf begin to whisper again. The boldness that once felt too risky now feels like a responsibility. This is personal rebirth. This is soul-level remembering. You are not chasing a new life. You are stepping into the one that was waiting for you all along. Just on the other side of letting go. And Scorpio, as that fire builds within you again, it won't burn you. It will illuminate. You're not here to follow. You're here to lead. And you don't need permission. You just need to trust that everything being taken away is making room for everything your soul has been quietly preparing for. This is your return, not just to purpose, but to power. Not borrowed. Not conditional. Your own. So here you are now. Scorpio standing at the threshold. The dust still settling from what's been released. Your hands still aching from all that you've unclenched. And maybe part of you still wonders if you made the right choice in letting go. Maybe there's a quiet voice inside, asking if something better will truly come. But I promise you this, everything that left did so to make space for what is finally ready to arrive. And what's coming will not ask you to shrink. It will not demand that you abandon yourself. It will not come wrapped in confusion, in compromise, in doubt. What's coming will meet you exactly where you are with clarity, with resonance, with a sense of peace that doesn't ask to be earned, but to receive it. You have to stay open. You have to resist the urge to run back to the familiar, just because it's easier to explain. This is your final invitation. Stop resisting the shift. Stop negotiating with the parts of your past that already showed you they can't walk with you forward. Stop delaying your own expansion just to preserve someone else's comfort. The change isn't here to undo you. It's here to deliver you. The more you let go of what no longer aligns, the more the right people, the right opportunities, the right love begin to find you. Not because you chased them, but because you created room. And this time, you'll recognize them. You'll feel the difference in your body, in your nervous system, in the way your energy doesn't contract around them, but expands. That's how you'll know. That's how you'll trust. Scorpio, you don't have to know exactly where this path leads, to walk it with conviction. You just have to believe that your soul didn't come this far, only to repeat itself. You didn't endure the unraveling, just to rebuild another version of what kept you confined. You came here to break the pattern, to live in a way that honors every piece of who you are. Let the old fall away. Let what's meant for you find you without all the resistance. The timing is not a mistake. The loss is not a punishment. This is your upgrade. Your portal. Your resurrection. Don't close your heart now. You're almost home. So if your world feels quieter now, if people are leaving, if emotions are rising, if parts of you feel both raw and strangely alive, know that this is not the end. This is the clearing before the blooming. The breaking before the breakthrough. Scorpio, you were never meant to carry what dimmed you. And now that your hands are free, now that your heart is no longer tangled in what couldn't grow with you, you are ready. Ready to love without losing yourself. Ready to rise without apologizing. Ready to receive not just survival, but a life that feeds you, fills you, reflects who you truly are. Let the old fall. Let the silence speak. And when the new begins to arrive, don't doubt it. Don't question whether you deserve it. Just breathe. Open your hands and say yes. This is your turning point. This is your return. Welcome back.